Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Donovan, I'm going to share some suggestions. I've met recently with our veteran service organizations. The number one thing that I hear most frequently is the faulty handoff between the Department of Defense and the VA. Suicides, the data is that suicides of veterans are most likely to take place in the first year to 3 years after they leave active duty. I believe that the Department of Defense should put as much time, effort, and money into transition out as they do to recruitment in. This is a really serious problem, and I hope that you will really pay some attention to this, because I hear this everywhere I go in Maine from individual veterans and veterans organizations. Second, and you sort of alluded to this, in terms of recruitment, and we've got new kinds of soldiers. Cyber warriors don't need to have to do 100 push-ups. And I think there needs to be not a degradation of standards, but a recognition of what it is that we need, what qualities do we need in certain jobs, so that for example, the physical requirements perhaps aren't going to be the same for somebody that's going to be, whose fighting is done at a computer screen. So I hope that's a consideration. And finally, geographical recruitment. There's not much. There's been a loss of contact in New England or in the Northeast between the public and the military. We've lost a lot of bases. There are really no major bases, and it would be a danger to the country if the military was essentially a regional force. And I hope those are three things that you might take a look at.
Yes, sir, and thank you for that. And the collaboration with the VA is about the best I've ever seen. It probably doesn't help that I know Secretary Wilkie very well. I mean, it doesn't hurt that I know him that well. And we meet biweekly. We also co-chair a joint executive committee between the DOD and the VA. I co-chair with the Deputy Secretary of the VA. So, and all those issues you mentioned are on our agenda to work through.
And I want to associate myself with Senator Tillis's. I think a 5-year rotation makes a lot more sense, at least in many situations, than 3-year. It would save billions of dollars, aggravation to the families, and I think actually you'd have a greater buildup of knowledge and expertise. Mr. Gillis, this is a question for the record. I would like to know, if the alarm bell sounded tonight, what percentage of our military hardware would be ready to go? How many ships could go to sea? How many airplanes could fly? How many brigades would be ready to deploy? And in as much granularity as you can provide. In other words, not just overall Air Force, but helicopters, fighter planes, transportation, refueling. And again, this is for the record, but I think that would be important for us to know, how we're doing in this area. And frankly, I want to see it compared to the private sector. How does readiness in the Air Force compare to United Airlines, or how does readiness in the Navy compare to private sector ship transportation? Question of sustaining the F-35. Do we do life cycle cost analysis when we're acquiring a new weapon system?
Sir, I believe that we do, and if I'm confirmed, that's life cycle cost is one of the concepts that I would push across all weapon systems and installation sustainment.
Well, I know that the Secretary of the Air Force is focused on this, but the sustainment cost of the F-35 is right now prohibitive, and that's got to be driven down. I hope that that's a priority in your work.
Sir, I agree. I believe that has a negative impact on readiness, and if confirmed, I would commit to make that a priority.
Mr. Mercado, Admiral Mercado, is there a contingency plan in process for what happens if the deal in Afghanistan with the Taliban doesn't work?
Sir, that is not in my direct portfolio, but I understand it is conditions-based. So if confirmed, what I offer to you is to get together with my colleague from the ASD from Indo-Asia-Pacific and give you the answer you deserve, because it's a very, very important question. But my understanding is, again, we start the drawdown within 135 days to 8,600, and then after that, it is conditions-based, contingent on a political solution.
Well, I hope that we hold to that, because it would be tragic if we ended up in exactly the same place we were in 2001 with the Taliban providing a safe haven to our adversaries.
Yes, sir. I understand it is reversible, and I commanded a destroyer after 9/11, joining Carl Vinson with John C. Stennis Strike Group, supporting our Marines in Afghanistan. So I am very passionate about that as well, sir.
I just hope that that was a Bath-built destroyer, but we'll ask that for there. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you for your service and for your attention this morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.